imagine if it didn't work out?
Oh,
Like I would
yeah.
have felt so heartbroken.
Oh, you would have felt
It would have been
crushed because,
bad.
yeah,
The part about actually applying to pharmacy school goes back to my history of that immigrant experience. But I, this is kind of crazy to say, but when I went into undergrad, I just did pre-pharmacy. And for some reason, I just was like, oh yeah, there's a pharmacy school at the University of Arizona, so I'll just apply to that one. And I never thought to apply to another one. And neither did my
wow.
parents. My parents were kind of like, yep, that's your path. Like, and this is kind of like that very straightforward thinking, maybe, and in some
Yeah.
of our, because my parents have never experienced that level of high education or higher education in
Yeah.
America. And so I think in
Wow.
Vietnam for them, it was like, well, duh, like you start here and then you keep going this very narrow path because that was
Yeah.
the only option. You know what I'm
Wow,
saying?
that's so true. That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
That so then when I'm the oldest, by the way, so they never really had an experience with getting this a child into a professional like doctorate program.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like by luck in a way made
Not
it through. I
luck,
mean,
not luck, not luck.
I think part of it is luck because I happen to have to, I worked in the labs that the lab, the main
Environment?
guy, the owner of the lab, not, he's not owner,
Oh,
he's like
okay.
the lead, the
Researcher?
researcher, the lead
Okay.
researcher ended up interviewing me actually as one of the interviewer during my
Oh,
pharmacy
wow.
school interview. So it was kind of like, oh yeah, I already know you. So in a way, it was a little bit lucky. I also worked really hard to get good grades, good at,
Yes.
but like a PCAT score. I don't remember
Yes.
so many of this
It
stuff
is
because it's so
PCAT.
long
There,
ago.
there was a lot more we had to do. PCAT
Yeah.
was a real thing. It was a
Yes.
real thing.
And so I worked hard. I prepared for my interview. I was ready to go, but a part of me looking back at it was like, why didn't you apply to more school? Because if
Right.
you didn't end up in a pharmacy school, what were you gonna do? Because I also didn't really think about that part either.
Part.
Girl, I was
Yeah.
not prepared. This is that mistake that I made because of because we didn't have a lot of people advising us. Like we just didn't have a
Yeah.
lot of support in that sense, like people being like,
Yeah.
wait, why are you only applying to one?
Find
Like
to
what are you going to do if
once.
you don't get in? Like what are you doing? My parents and I were just like
One.
so zoomed in on this thing. We
Yeah.
didn't even see what could have happened if, yeah, so like could you imagine if it didn't work out?
Oh,
Like I would
yeah.
have felt so heartbroken.
Oh, you would have felt
It would have been
crushed because,
bad.
yeah, I didn't even get interviewed at some of the programs I applied to, and then interviewed at other places and was waitlisted. Like when I
Yeah.
applied, it was still incredibly competitive to get into, especially in like the northeastern region where I wanted to stay. Another downside of a person that is uniquely abled, my decisions and my choices about relocation, I have to think very strategically about it, because if I get sick, like my family needs to be able to get to me like right away. I can't go out to California and it takes like a day for someone to get out there and make sure I'm
Yeah,
okay and I
that's
don't need
fascinating.
assistance and support. So I've always just geographically had to think strategically. So I applied to programs in like Virginia, Maryland, like that was it. So because it was just that residency, it was kind of the same thing. Even though residency, I went as far as Florida, I applied as
Wow.
far as Orlando, but it was always on my mind, like, which girl, Lord and behold, I spent the first 2 weeks of residency in the hospital.
Oh God.
So,
That's
like I'm not I'm not like psychotic and thinking strategically about some of the ways I
that's
think,
so
because
wild.
the reality of my life is that things absolutely can change, like from one
Yeah.
to the next. So I'm not able to like just up and go. And
Yeah.
applying to pharmacy school, that was at the forefront. It's like, can family get to me quickly if they get a call that something's wrong, or I call and say like, I need help? Can they
Hmm.
get to me like quickly, right?
So
But yeah,
was your school your first choice or
it
was
really
it?
was. My
Oh
life wasn't gonna,
wow.
it really was. There were too many benefits to staying at UMES. It
Yeah.
was 3 years. I was gonna save on a year of tuition. I would have had an opportunity to accomplish in 4 years what it takes others to do in 5, which was to complete a residency. And I was going to save on a year of tuition. um, and
Was
it was
that
only,
in-state tuition?
yeah, it was in
Oh,
state for
wow, that's
me.
nice. Yeah.
It was a 2-hour drive from home. The benefits in my life wasn't going to change much. I was already there completing an undergraduate degree. I didn't have to move. I didn't have to. The transition was going to be the most, it was going to be the most seamless transition. And I just decided in this case, like, I'm going to go with the most logical and the thing that makes the most sense here and stay at UMES if they will have me.
Yeah.
It was a question of, did they want me? So thank God they
Of
did.
course they No, I mean, like, yeah, we can look back now, but like, of course they, but like at the time, it is very nerve-wracking, and
Yeah.
it's like, I didn't really have a backup, so it was kind of like, this is it, this better
Yeah.
happen for me, and not an ideal situation, but yeah, I guess since I only applied to one school and I got in, that was my choice as
That
well.
was your choice. It was meant to happen. They were meant to have you there.
Yes, yes, but what
What
was pharmacy school like for
I was like,
you?
I was like, I was like about to ask you the same thing. I was like,
Oh
I'm
my
really curious that after applying to one school and it worked out, you're there. What is it like when you start? Like, what are you thinking, feeling,
Well,
and going through?
that's a very interesting thing because remember, I was like 20. I was
Oh my
20 years old. I
gosh.
don't know how old you were, but I was
I
a
was
young,
old. I started
really?
pharmacy school at 28.
Oh my God. So you
I
had a whole
know.
life before that.
I was a whole 20s and like a reckless 20 something before enrolling in pharmacy school.
Interesting. Maybe I don't know your history as much as I as much as I think I do. Ah,
Good.
we will talk more about that
They're
later.
learning about us and we're learning about each other too at the same
Yeah,
time. This
exactly.
is
But I
great.
was 20 years old. All of my friends were in their senior year of undergrad. So
Wow.
all of my friends were like, I don't, senior year for a 20, 21-year-old is like partying day and night. And
Yeah.
here I am, like, ready for pharmacy school, like the first year of pharmacy school. And then all my friends were like, wow, this is our last year. We got to party all the time. So I kind of missed out on some of that, but in a way, it was probably a good thing because I did
What?
not need to go so
You
wild.
didn't. You
But
didn't.
my first year, yeah, I was 20, 2021. It was such like a growing, like, you're so young. And
Yeah.
interestingly, that class, it almost felt, because it was 100 of us and we were 100 moving forward for the next 4 years, that it felt
Wow.
a little bit of a high schoolish type of vibe, not
Vibe.
gonna
Oh yeah.
lie. Yes, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you experienced that, but
Oh,
our class, we formed little cliques like immediately. Like
immediately.
immediately.
It doesn't take like 3 days. It was like at orientation, everyone already found their people.
Isn't that so wild? So
It wild.
did you find your people, do you think? What was your people?
Like I found my person,
Oh,
not my
oh.
people. Like I have to be like, because like I found my person, and then I had two other people that I found because okay, it wasn't productive for my brand to fall into a clique. I went in
Your brand?
right because I went in and immediately pursued the student leadership path.
Mm, okay.
I ran for APHA ASP president and then went on and ran for APHA Region 2 delegate. So as a student leader, I needed to stay open and be a person that could absolutely fit into no matter what the clique is, because I
Gotcha.
couldn't get anything done if I was viewed as a person that only was
Yeah.
towards one group. Um, and so I didn't have that privilege of like picking a clique and having one, but I found my person. I found my husband there.
I that sounds I know I this today was probably right before we filmed. I was like, did you meet your husband in pharmacy school? Just learning new things about each other all the time.
I
So do
I
you want
did.
to share this lovely story maybe
Oh my
later?
God. He was
Because
so
I
quiet in class. I didn't even know that he was a classmate until like until like the
Oh,
third week. I went to a birthday party that was organized and met him, spoke with him, danced with him, but did not know that he was in my class. So
that's
like
so
I
cute.
walk into class like that Monday and I'm like, okay, this is stalkerish. Why are you here? This is a little stalkerish. Dude, why are you here,
That is so funny.
sir?
Like,
Um,
you don't belong here.
you don't belong here. Okay, we had fun. Cool, but
Yeah, this is
why are you
too, you're coming on too strong. You're freaking me out.
you're freaking me out, low key.
That,
But then
that is so
I was so
funny.
humiliated because it turns out he's been the guy that's been sitting directly in front of me in class for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I
What, how did he get
never,
your attention then?
I,
Since he was so quiet at that party or whatever
I
the
don't know.
event you
He
were
was a
at.
different person at the party. He was performing. He must have been performing at the party because he was
Do you,
different.
do you
Like
think
he
he
was,
noticed you before you
I
noticed? I
don't
mean,
know. I don't
obviously,
even know if I'd ever asked him, like,
get
what
him
made
up
you
here.
comfortable to talk to? It was like we were all a group, like all of the African expats, like we were
Okay.
like at the party together and talking. Like they pretty much invited everybody from the class to come. It turned out like it was actually his birthday that day too. So I met him on his birthday and I'm like, oh, birthday boy, blah 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 blah. Like, but I had no idea that he
Wait,
was
was it a pharmacy event or it was not?
it was open, like they invited non-pharmacy people too, but like our whole
Oh,
pharmacy class was invited to the little thing.
I love that story.
Yeah, but it's as a student leader, I didn't have that advantage of being closed off. I
Yeah,
really had to stay open. And then as part of my involvement on APHA ASP, I picked up two of the most unbelievable friends that I will be friends with these two people for the rest of my life. We are too much alike for them to dump me. And if they dump me, I'm coming to look for them, right?
that's so funny.
But Dallas and Bart, lifelong friendships. And if we hadn't served on that APHA ASP executive
Mhm.
um, committee together, I would have probably never gotten a chance to know them the way I did.